Okay, welcome to Travel and Tips. Well, I guess Jamie back again.
Hello,
Part two. Great to have you back on the show.
Glad to be back.
So in this particular segment, we're just going to start off by talking a little bit about Jamie's process on going to Australia and why he wanted to go to Australia, and we're going to move on from there. That's in the first segment. There'll be other parts to this as well, but in separate videos as well. So we're just going to start off with that. So so Jamie,
Australia.
I want to go to Australia.
Feels like such a long time ago now. I was only there. I got back just before COVID, really. But it was something that had never really crossed my mind for a while. I've seen people doing it, and obviously we talked last time about working at camp. So a lot of people that Shaun and I would have worked with would have come from Australia and New Zealand, or a lot, if they were European or even Americans, would actually between years go down there, spend our winter, their summer in the amazing weather, and then come back to America the following year. Like some would literally go from the UK, camp, Australia, back to camp, and then go home at the end of it. So kind of seeing all these people doing that, and meeting a few friends who were Australians themselves, I started to kind of get the hankering to travel a bit more and go a bit further afield. So obviously I hadn't done much when I was younger, then camp was the big thing for me. And then I got a job as a travel agent. And that was pretty good because I knew loads about America, but I discovered I knew next to nothing about anywhere else. I learned all the stuff. I've got books. I should grab the books actually. They're just in the next room. I've got like thick travel books like that. On that one, Australia, New Zealand, America, Africa, Southeast Asia, everywhere but Europe, basically, because we didn't do that at the time. I kind of had this idea of I quite enjoyed the job, but I needed to know more about the places I was going to, because I like having that insider information. That was then combined with a close friend of mine passing away a couple of years back. So he was only 27. Actually, it was more than a couple of years ago now. But it became this real thing of, you just got to do it. Don't talk about it, just do it. Because I've missed out when I initially tried to do it because I didn't have enough money, spent it all in California. And then just thought, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Just going to get down there, do it, because you're only young once. Let's see what this is all about, what everyone raves about. And that's kind of the reason why I went down to Australia.
Nice.
So what was the process then? What was the process of you decided, and then what was next?
So I decided I was going to go, and I started doing a bit of research. So obviously, like from when Shaun and I worked at camp, for that you had to go and get a certain type of visa, a working visa. So I knew, right, that's where you have to start off with Australia. Like if you want to just go and travel, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's 3 months possibly is how long you can stay in the country. You have to get an electronic visa just to go and travel. You can go and do that, and that's fine. But I thought, no, I want to make a big go of this. I want to actually go down and work. So I had to go and get a working visa. With America, the way things tend to work is that you have to get a job that will then sponsor you for the visa. So for summer camps, there are these agencies that will get you the visa, and then they get you to the camps. But if you're looking to move out to the States, you have to find a job when you're out there, and then come home and all that sort of thing, and get a new visa and go out. Australia, very easy on the working holiday visa. You sign up for it and you go for a year, and you can just pick up work wherever you are and start working. So that was the first thing I had to do. And for anyone who's looking at doing that, that is the way to do it. There's 2 different types you can get of working holiday visa. One is the 417, which is for people from the UK and selected other countries, which is what I did. One is the work and holiday visa, 462, which applies to the United States and a few other countries. So it's one of these 2, and they have different levels of what you have to have before you can go. On the 462, which I didn't get, you have to have a certain level of qualification in the country you're coming from. You have to be able to speak English fluently. That's one of the things they ask for. And then have to fill the other criteria, which is age, which is 18 to 30 and other things. For the 417, so people from the UK, you don't need to be educated at all. You can just go down. They don't
You're
ask
right,
you
then,
to
Shaun.
speak English.
Hey!
Yeah, you don't have to speak English. So Sean's really okay there.
I'm going to make that joke, to be fair, but I found out.
Oh, beat you to it. Yeah, but that is 18 to 30, but it's been extended to 35 for certain countries. I know Ireland's one. I think Italy might be another, and there's a third. So with the American style, what Shaun and I would have had to do is do all this sign up, all this paperwork, which takes forever. And if you've ever been on holiday to the States, kind of the same thing, but longer. You do it online, you fill all these forms in, you get a police check, all that sort of stuff. And then you have to go to London to the US Embassy to go through 2 meetings before you get your visa processed.
And you could be rejected, by the way.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
You
There's
could be
hundreds of
rejected.
people. You can be rejected. They're really hot on the bureaucracy. Australia, I filled in the form, sent it off, and about 30 seconds later got an email saying you've been approved. Oh, great. That was really easy. I was like, right, well, I probably need to book my flights now. Yeah, so I'd done the research. I kind of knew what I was going to do. And yeah, it was just simple. You fill in the form and it's done. And that's kind of useful because you get sat with an account, because the other good thing about the visas in Australia, the working holiday and the work and holiday, is that you have a year's visa. But if you do 3 months of work in a specified field, and there's a whole list of things you can do, you can extend it for 2 years. And then that second year, what they changed whilst I was out there is if you then do specified work for 6 months of that second year, you can stay out for a third year. And that third year, you don't get anything more than that. You just do whatever you want for a year. And it's great. The only downside is you can only work in the same place for 6 months, so you have to change jobs. But you're in Australia, like, it's not too bad. And that specified work can change as well. So just after I left, the area I was living in had major bushfires. And they said to people, like, normally it's farms that you'd be working on. If you're a backpacker helping out with bushfire relief, that will count towards your 90 days, 88 days. 88 days? I think so.
Yeah, 3 months. 3 months.
Oh, 3 months. There's a specified number of days. I've forgotten it now. So some people did that. Then also helping out with COVID. A lot of people got stuck down there. So helping out with that would also count towards your days. So that's kind of a big thing that once you get out becomes kind of important. But yeah, it's good to know that you actually do have that option. And New Zealand, I think, is very similar, but they only do a couple of years. So yeah.
So you've decided, you've started the process, and now what's next? Booking the flights and looking for a job and stuff.
Yeah. So figuring out how you're going to get down there. The other thing I forgot to mention, when it comes to getting down there, you need to have your visa, but also you need to have, when you arrive, not the time you apply, but when you arrive, so I had time to save up, you need about 5,000 Australian dollars in a bank account, or the equivalent of, because you need to prove that you can sustain yourself when you're out there. You're not going to just get out there, run out of money instantly and sponge off the system. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're there to work. That's why you're out there. I know people who've gone out on student visas to try and live out there, still going to need a job, and it can be quite expensive. So yeah, you make sure you got your money together, and then you have to figure out where you're going to go. So Australia, the main places, people tend to start in one of 2 locations. It's either Melbourne or it's Sydney. You can, if you want to, fly into Brisbane or Adelaide or Perth. Actually, Perth does direct flights from London at the moment. I think it's 18-hour flight or something crazy like that. But it's usually Melbourne and Sydney are the places to go to. So I chose to go to Melbourne. And there's always a fight, and it has been for about 200 years over which is the better city, and it still goes on today. And backpackers have it all the time. I love Melbourne. I think Melbourne's way better than Sydney. People are going to hate me. I'm right. I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you win this one. I'm correct. Melbourne's better. But often it is whichever one you go to first is the one you prefer. Like Sydney does have amazing beaches. Not going to deny that, although Bondi is rubbish. And the harbour's amazing, but the rest of the city is not. I didn't find enough that excited me about it compared to Melbourne, where you walk down a random alleyway and behind some random metal door is going to be this hidden away bar or restaurant, which is absolutely incredible. Like, I went to a bar that you went to a book. There was a bookcase in one area, the main bar, also had an amazing rooftop bar. But the main bar, you open this bookshelf, like pick out a single book, and it slides away. There's a whole underground speakeasy, and only milk.
That's
Awesome.
There's like another one I was told about. I didn't go to it, but you go into a restaurant and then you ask for the special. They take you out the back to where like the kitchen is. You go through the kitchen, through the freezer. At the back of the freezer is another door. And there's a bar behind that.
That's awesome.
That's the sort of thing Melbourne's about. That's why I kind of liked it. I spent a lot of time there. But yeah, so the reason I looked at that was because when you get out there, I was used to the American style where you get to the States, you've done all your work, and then count would pick you up and you were sorted. And sometimes it is nice to know what you're doing when you get there. Yeah. So there's lots of travel agents will offer these like welcome packages, which some people will do, some people will not. It's completely down to you what you want to do. I found a group called Welcome to Travel, literally through YouTube. People may have seen, there was a video a few years back, which was things never said by backpackers. That was these guys. So a couple of Englishmen who went out to Australia, did their thing. And I saw it and just thought, you know what, this seems pretty cool. They seem like really cool guys. I'm going to do their welcome package. So it involved getting picked up from the airport, which actually didn't happen. I was the first person where the driver didn't ever turn up. That was a bit awkward. But then, yes, they would sort you out with like a bank account. You need to get a bank account when you're out there. You need to get a phone SIM card because you need to be on Australian phones because it's a lot cheaper. And they'll be able to help you out with like travel stuff. When you go traveling, they can sort you out with work stuff. And then also if you do they have two packages. They've got a 4-day and an 8-day. They've actually today just started another tour in Sydney. On my side, they've announced it because they can't have anyone in. So I did the 4 days. My first day was a tour of the city with all that paperwork set up going on. The second day, I believe, was when we went down to the beach and met up with the bigger tour. Spent some time with them, had a big barbecue and things like that. And there was a day where we sorted out like travel stuff, and they would kind of help you with ideas you had for travel and tell you about the amazing places to go to in Australia. And then they kind of send you off and all that sort of stuff. But the main group, they spent like a couple of days down in Phillip Island seeing penguins. They've got penguin parades down there. They went surfing for a day. They do all sorts of crazy stuff, and both tours have that. And yeah, so I decided to do that just because it got the really annoying stuff out of the way. So I had my bank account, I had my phone, and I thought I'm just going to stay in Melbourne for a bit and look for work. Yeah. And then they found me a job within about 2 days.
So fair play.
They were really, really good. Like I'd recommend doing something like that. But if you wanted to go completely on your own, sort it all out yourself, loads of people have done it. You can. But for me, I thought I'd go with these guys. Naturally, I've had so many opportunities come out of that. I'm even speaking to a company at the moment about work who I wouldn't have discovered if it wasn't for the Welcome to Travel guys. Yeah. So that's something you can do. But obviously to get there, you've got to get a flight. There's no other way of getting to Australia. If you're going to take your boat,
you're going to be walking for a while.
Yeah. So I think you've got about a year on the visa to enter the country, and then it lasts for a year from the day you arrive. So the biggest thing that I learned from being a travel agent, which nobody ever seems to realize, is when it comes to flying to Australia, New Zealand, places like that, you have to have a stopover somewhere. It's inevitable. It's what you do. And that's it. People just stop over at an airport, get another flight and move on. Don't do that. What happens with these airlines, you start to notice. So if you're flying with Singapore Airlines, they're going to stop in Singapore. If you fly with Cathay Pacific, they always stop in Hong Kong. If you fly with like Thai Airlines, they're going to stop in Bangkok. Emirates will stop in Dubai, Etihad and Abu Dhabi, places like that. These are their hub cities. So if an airline transfers you through a hub city, you are basing on two separate tickets effectively. They won't charge you extra for these two flights. So you can just stay in that city for longer and the price of your tickets won't go up. If they're flying through another city, it'll be an increased price because they want you to go to their hub. So I could pay like £700 to fly via Hong Kong. But if I want to fly to Hong Kong, stay there for about 5 or 6 days and then fly on to Australia, it's still 700 quid. But if I flew with Cathay to Bangkok, there'd be a reroute through Hong Kong somewhere and it would cost me extra to stay in Bangkok. Yeah. So look into that. I did it. So I flew to Hong Kong for a few days on my way down, and it was great. I'd never been to Asia before. Got a complete culture shock. I think I rang Shaun
Yeah,
when
you
I got there.
did.
He was the only person that was up, because I think you must have been in the States at that point still.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I think with time difference, it worked out all right. He was around. I'm just like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is insane. There's just like thousands of people everywhere. Everything's kind of similar to what I'm used to, but also completely different. Like, the road signs are all the English road signs, but none of it's in English. I don't understand the money. It makes no sense. I'm paying $80 for McDonald's or something, which is like £8, or maybe like 60. But then to get a ferry is going to cost me 30p. Like, I didn't know what was happening. It was mad. I enjoyed it in the end, but the first day I was so jet lagged. I'm like, what is this?
What am I doing here?
So yeah, definitely if you're heading down there, do something like that. Anywhere you can stop, just do a few days, figure something out. Like, it's so much more worthwhile, and also it sorts your jet lag out for when you get to Australia, because I would have been, I think, 8 hours ahead when I got to Hong Kong, and then it was only 11 when I got to Melbourne. So actually that second jump worked out really, really well for me. So yeah, definitely do that. Obviously then, yeah, you mentioned about what sort of flights to get, because, you know, when you fly out there, it's cheaper to get a return ticket. Like, if you're going to go book it on the one go, return ticket will be cheaper than buying one way and then one way back. The thing with the return ticket is you're then kind of tied into that date which you're going to come back on, and you can change it. Like, if you get a flexible ticket, or you can get a flex ticket, which is a different thing, which costs you even more up front, but you can move the dates around without a charge for changing your dates. The travel agent I used, which one I worked for, was Trail Finders. So they had a £250 change fee before any increase in the fare that you're paying for your flights.
That's good.
Which, you know, it is what it is. Like, if you have booked a return ticket and you need to change it, you just suck up that amount. As long as you know that in advance, it's fine. So what people want to do, like, sometimes you want the safety of knowing when they're going to come back. Sometimes if they go, actually, I've got the return flight booked, I don't want to pay for that change, things might be really tough at a certain point, but you think, I'm not coming home because I paid for that flight.
Yeah.
Or if you've got the return flight booked and you really, really want to come home and it's all gone completely wrong for you, or something's happened at home you need to get back, that is also, it's going to cost you more. But at the same time, it might be then cheaper to not have a return flight and just buy a single ticket out of there. Like, so Shaun, when you and I did America, you had to have that return ticket to prove you. Yeah, one of the big things the embassy want in America is to prove that you're going to go back.
Yeah,
after you're done with your visa. Australia, they don't need to know that you're going to leave, and they just need to know that you can look after yourself, because people will stay there for years potentially.
Years, yeah.
So that's one thing to really look into. I personally got the return ticket. I knew that a couple of my cousins were going to get married around June. So I flew out in November. I thought I'll come back around June. Luckily, they got married within a week of each other. I don't want to say it because I was away, but maybe. No, probably not. So I booked my flights to come back. I think it was 2 days before one of the weddings. I was going to be back, have a day, and then we're going to drive down to Yeovil for this wedding. And I actually did come home early. I've been in Melbourne for about a month, maybe a month and a half, trying to find work. Wasn't working out great. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm a couple of weeks from going home. I don't really, not going to achieve much by staying here. There's not much I haven't seen in the city. I'm not going to be able to find a job this quickly and get started. I'm doing a little bit of work here and there for a company that I found through Welcome to Travel. So that was filming basketball matches. That was once a week. It wasn't a huge amount of money. And I looked at it, weighed up my finances, and thought the amount I'm going to spend for 2 weeks of accommodation will cover the cost it will cost me to fly home. So I flew home and told one person I was coming back. Luckily, picked up the phone and he was available that one day I was coming back to pick me up from the airport and surprise people.
That's decent. I just wanted to touch on with the flights and stuff. That was really interesting, to be fair, what you said about the flights, because when I went to Australia just for a family holiday, and we went for 2-3 weeks, and when we went with Emirates, and so we went through to Dubai, and that was a big regret of ours that we didn't stay in Dubai a couple of nights, because obviously with us, we literally had a couple of hours in the airport, and then obviously you board on your plane, so we didn't really get a second, and also our plane was delayed as well. So that's one thing that with the transferring the flights, if your plane's delayed on setting off, you can be stuffed. And we literally caught on the one to Sydney. We literally caught the like last call because our plane was delayed. So we were literally running, and I had a 2-year-old as well. So we were literally running with a 2-year-old, trying to get that. And just with flights as well, if you are taking kids, it can be an absolute nightmare on a 24-hour flight. But I've got a funny story about my 2-year-old. So when you're queuing up to like do your passport and stuff, and they've got the barriers with the tape. Well, my 2-year-old thought it was really funny to touch the tape, and obviously we're really tired and we're rushing and stuff. And we're running along, like, come on. And then he saw the tape, kept touching it. I kept saying, no, don't touch it. And then he did it one time, and literally all the tape, all the barriers closed up straight away. So all the security guys looking at us, and I was like, come on now.
That can't be fun at all. But no, definitely when you head down next, wherever you fly through, because obviously, like, if you speak to a travel agent or whatever, they'll give you a list of places you can go, and you can just extend the stay by a few days, just pay for accommodation for that. But it does break it up, and it's quite a nice little thing to do. Obviously, for 2 or 3 week holiday, it might be a bit tough.
Yeah.
But if you are just doing like a few hours in an airport could be like up to 12 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
You're going to be stuck anywhere for that, go with Singapore. Like, Singapore airport is incredible. They've got a massive like shopping mall, cinemas, an indoor waterfall. It's just nuts, and that's in the airport itself. So if you are in transit, you can just go and hang out there for a while.
Yeah. I
think one of the terminals they've got, there's a slide that takes you down towards the gates.
Yeah.
It's like a play area slide. I think they also do day tours. So if you are on a longer layover when you're in Singapore, you can actually do a day tour of the city.
Yeah.
If you've got the right part, like British passports, you'll be okay. You don't need a visa or anything to just go and be there as a tourist for either 30, 60 or 90 days.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, with the airport, I think Dubai was very similar, to be fair. They had like car garages in there. You could literally buy a car. Like, they had we walked through like the bit, where all the salesmen are and stuff, and they're like, literally everything you want to buy is there. Like, I think there was even like a spa in there. There's so many different terminals, and there's like a spa. You could go to like a spa for like while you're waiting and stuff like that. Because I know someone who just staying on flights, but they travelled and they had to catch like 4 different flights to like get to Australia because it was so much cheaper. She did it for like £200 to get there. But you have to like fly to like China, and then she stayed like 12 hours in China, and then then moved somewhere else, and But
you can get flights really, really cheap by doing that. The trip's going to be awful for a start. And actually, one of the big things I'd say, actually touching on that, it's a really good point, is about using travel agents. So it can be a little bit more expensive to go with a travel agent, but if you booked all your tickets through them, and actually they can then book tickets through the airline. So if you've got that 4-part ticket effectively to get to Australia, if you booked it yourself and you booked them all individually, if you miss one of those flights, you're screwed. Like, everything else gets knocked off. Like, you paid that, that's gone. The travel agent will be able to help you out. And in today's day with COVID, like everything going wrong left, right and centre every other day pretty much, I would really recommend nowadays sucking up that extra cost and using travel agents and making sure your insurance is really good. Because if you book everything through an airline and you miss one flight, they can bump you up to the next flight. That's fine if it's not your fault. But if you started putting a few different flights together, it's much easier when you're in an airport, especially as the 2-year-old with you, Luke. If things are going wrong, you don't want to have to spend all your time trying to book flights. You want to just call your travel agent, if you've got a decent one, and just say, this has happened, or they'll already know in some cases, and they'll be fixing it for you. So So you don't have to worry about all those sorts of things. So that actually is something I'd recommend with flights, especially something that long haul. And then also touching back on layovers, sorry, the worst place to have a layover is America. If you're flying around the world, if you are in transit in the United States of America, you have to go through immigration. Most places it's not a thing. America, you have to go and you have to have your ESTA, which you have to apply for before you get on the flight and go through all the immigration process before you can even board your next flight. So yeah, American immigration can be very, very, very slow. So it's not really recommended, and it can be a bit more expensive, which is why you'll often find when people fly to Australia, they're going to go via Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bangkok, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, even a few others in there they might get stopped off at. But yeah, that's the reason why it's often cheaper, and you don't have to go through immigration to get to your next flight.
So when you arrived in Australia, did you have really bad jet lag, or was it okay? Or
I was okay, actually. I would have arrived, I think, probably around lunchtime. So I'd flown overnight from Hong Kong. In fact, my last day in Hong Kong, so I had to be at the hostel quite early. I discovered that really, really close to the airport, I just needed someone to leave my bags all day. There was somewhere I could leave my bags and would keep me occupied. And that was Disneyland. Disneyland Hong Kong is right next to the airport. It's like 5 minutes by train. So I went and did that for the day. Literally got my bag off in the morning, went and did Disney on my own. It was great. Not the best Disney park, but it was great fun. I had a good time. Completely on my own as well, which was weird. And then, grabbed my bag and hopped on a flight and slept through that. Most of that, I think, just straight out because I had such a busy day. And then, Australia, I was there at lunchtime and kind of just cracked on with my day. I might have been in the afternoon, so I think I just went out for dinner, walked around at the Queen Victoria markets in Melbourne. And that was it really. So I was then, it was the following morning. I then had my tour. I'd been meeting up with people doing the 4-day tour, which there was one other person. We didn't shake each other for about 3 months after that, so that was kind of cool. So jet lag wasn't too bad. I think Hong Kong, I did struggle. I arrived there in the evening. By the time I got to my hostel, and I'd flown overnight, and went out for dinner, and it was just absolute carnage. And I think there it really did hit me. And then, so I went home, and when I came back out, I flew via Singapore, and the same thing again. I got the first thing in the morning. So I needed to do something to kill time before getting into my hostel. And I went to see Spider-Man Homecoming. Far from home. And I love Spider-Man. I fell asleep. I was so tired, I fell asleep. Checked into the hostel, slept for a couple of hours, and I went out in the evening. And that was my first day there. So those places, it kind of got me. I always find it's when you head east. I don't know about you, Shaun, if it's the same thing coming out from America. You head out there, it's great. Like you've been flying for 9 hours. You left first thing in the morning. You arrive, it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you just keep going because you're buzzed. When you go back the other way, it's normally an overnight flight, and you don't sleep very well on the plane. And then your body clocks off, and you're not as coming back from America, you're not as excited. Going out to Asia, you're kind of excited, but you're shattered. But then that last jump, is always kind of like down. It's like you're starting up like here, like Hong Kong, Singapore, then you drop down into Australia. So there's not too much of a change, and actually there you're then absolutely fine. But if you do that 18 hours London to Perth, you're going to be knackered, especially if you can't sleep on a plane.
I think my flight. I think my flight was like 24 hours. I swear it was 24 hours. I was 22
so
or
it'll
something.
be about 24 because you're taking trying to get some little
like
here to here and then down. Whereas actually it's just straight down. Up and down so that's why it's a bit shorter. Also, Perth is on the west coast of Australia. To fly from Perth to Sydney is going to take you about 5 hours. That's how big this place is. And in between there is nothing. Literally nothing for a 5 hour flight. It's just desert. Which is the other amazing thing about Australia, is just the wide open expanses of nothing.
Just on the jet lag. So when I went, my flight was 24 hour, and I don't really sleep on planes, so I would like awake quite a lot of it. But I was like in and out of sleep, you know, when you like pass out and then you back up. And I swear I've seen Maze Runner. You know, this film Maze Runner.
Yeah.
I swear I've seen it like 17 times. I still don't know what happened. Literally every time I've watched that film, I fell asleep. Like, so yeah, I still don't know what happened in it. And so yeah, and then when we got to Australia, and like we because I didn't sleep that much. We got to Australia like late at night. So we literally fell asleep straight away, and then we were fine. So I literally had no jet lag whatsoever. We were just like on their time frame type thing. So
once you get that first night's sleep, you're usually okay.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing. Like, I think first night, Shaun and I would turn up at camp. It would be like midnight. You go to bed, which is 5 a.m. UK time. But those last few hours when you've arrived is like really high energy. Everyone's excited. You've been chilling out the bus for 4 hours. You kind of jump into it and you're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you arrive somewhere like first thing in the morning, you want to go to sleep, and you know you shouldn't, because once you do get that first sleep, you'll be okay. But if it's a long day, you're in real trouble.
I'm getting used to the heat as well of wherever you're going as well.
Definitely. Climate change will be a big factor in how you adapt. And yeah, as you think about like films and stuff, I always know going to a flight, I'll look at the films, I'll find the one I really want to watch. I'll watch that first, and I have like a list in my head of what I don't. Usually, a couple of comedies, I'll be like, I can fall asleep in this. I don't care. And every now and again, you get a really good one, you don't sleep, and you think, oh god, I'm in trouble here. Like I've not slept at all. And sometimes I can sleep fine on a flight. Others, like if you got someone next to you who's like invading your space, back from the States is always really bumpy. But then when I finally came back from Australia, I flew with Qatar Airways, who are brilliant, by the way. Another good airline, they fly through Doha. And no one really knows about them. So I had empty seats next to me, so I could spread across all these seats. I got great sleep. And you wake up when I was like, oh, I'm flying over like the desert, and it's like, oh, we're flying over Iraq or something. It's like, this is kind of cool. And then you go back to sleep again. Yeah.
Did you know when you're on the flight, did you go into like first class or anything? You know, when you walk through the plane? I just want to say that the first class is unreal. Like when you walk past, like they've all got like private pods and like everything.
Like, everything.
Yeah, unreal. But it's like $5,000 a flight, like, but it's unreal.
Emirates and Etihad are owned by two Saudi princes, Prince from the UAE, who really have this big rivalry between each other. You know, it's a point of, you know, Emirates sponsoring Arsenal, building a stadium. So then Etihad go for Man City.
Yeah.
Dubai bought the Burj Khalifa, but they couldn't get all the money for it. So Abu Dhabi gave them some of the money. I think it's actually got the Khalifa is actually the Abu Dhabi brother, and like their airlines are always competing against each other to try and one up the other one. And it's mad, absolutely mad what they can do. If you can get into first class with them, do it. It's mental. Like a lot of these longer flights, they'll have some really, really cool upgrades. Even like business class and premium economy can be really, really good. I don't know about you guys. I've flown business class once in my life. That was in Australia. Probably save that for another time, but wasn't quite to the same level. Let's just put it that way. What I know you can get on international flights.
Just with the food on the flights as well. So like in the economy class, you get like I got offered like a cheese roll or something like that, and it's just like nah. And then you go into private, they've got like sushi and everything, anything that you want.
Like with Cathay or Singapore, and you get amazing food, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Like Singapore especially, like the food was incredible.
Was it?
Yeah. And I think I'm on a plane. This shouldn't be any good. Yeah. It's great.
I got like cheese rolls and like can't remember what else to give me. But the problem is with your flights as well. So because of all the time zone differences, is that like so we were like it was like 12 o'clock at night, and they're giving like a chicken curry dish or something like that. Or it's like first thing in the morning, they're giving like chicken curry dish because of all the time differences. So you just like your whole like thing's just off. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was something they've tried to sort out recently. Qantas have done it because they were partnered with Emirates. I believe, it was Emirates. I'm trying to remember because we used to book like round the world trips with them at Trail Finders. And So they'd fly through Dubai, but they are the ones who did the 18-hour flight London to Perth. They've also done New York to Sydney. So most airlines, when they do the meal service, will be based on the point of departure. So, you know, if it's breakfast time in London, you're eating breakfast, even if it's like, you know, evening. So what they trialed when they did the New York flights was to serve meals based on your destination, and to, you know, put the lights out when it be night in your destination as opposed to the place you left. So it kind of forces you into that sleep cycle a little bit already. So you should be less jet lagged. And I think they proved it did happen. But yes, you like get on your flight and like, well, you know, it's middle of the night in New York, so wait for your breakfast. And you're like, but it's the afternoon. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so yeah, no, that is a very good point, Luke. And 99% of flights you'll still have that. But yeah, there's a couple now they're changing the thinking, and it might become a thing. Who knows?
Yeah. Right, so on to back to Australia. So you've done your 4 days with the travel company, and then what happens next?
So after that, it was literally like, so I'd found out about this opportunity the day after I arrived. I met this guy Adam from Welcome to Travel. So he's taking myself and the Canadian guy out, showing us around Melbourne, and he's saying, you know, when it comes to the final day, you know, we sit you down, we talk you through, basically get a map of Australia. It's like, these are all the really amazing things you can do in all these places. And you go, oh, that's amazing. It's like, do you want to book anything? We can book things for you.
Yeah.
And you're really, really tempted. And a lot of people will do this. They'll go out and they'll have fun. They'll splurge all their money, and then they're skint.
Yeah.
Right, I'll look for a job. Or they don't spend it all, and they look for a job, and they're living in a city, and it's all great, and they think, oh, I want to stay here. And then you're trying to get your 88 days in, and you've only got about 90 days to do it in. And you think, oh, God. And you end up in a place called Bundaberg. Bundaberg is awful. Makes an all right run, but it's not a great place. Loads of backpackers. It's just, you're going to get a job there, but you're not going to get much. And we could probably do an entire another talk about types of work in Australia, because I know that we're running about 38 minutes now. So we were told that there was this guy who was a friend of theirs who had just got the license to open a hostel in the town he lived in, and attached to the hostel was a job which would get you your 88 days. So we're thinking, well, you know, it might be quite nice to just get it over and done with and out the way. Also, I was, you know, in Melbourne. I booked a hostel for the week, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. I had to start looking for jobs, and thought, actually, if this has got one attached, I'll just go for that, give it a go, see what happens. So yeah, a couple of days in Melbourne, living the city life, and then I was on a bus to Bairnsdale in East Gippsland. It was 4 hours because there was no train at the time. The train was being worked on. And yeah, it was like first thing in the morning. It was me and this Canadian guy, and we've rocked up middle of nowhere, pretty much. Not quite middle, but the main part of that area. Everything else was middle of nowhere around it, effectively. And we're thinking, where are we? What's going on? We knew some of the guys from the 8-day trip had also gone there, because we basically got like first refusal on using the place due to that connection. But they'd arrived before we had. So we rung the hostel owner. We don't know where we are, which is at the station. He said, I'll come pick you up in a bit. And yeah, this guy rocks up in an Alice in Chains t-shirt, big old beard. And it's like, oh, hey guys, how's it going? I'm thinking, yeah, this will be all right. Ended up working in a pie factory. And that began like the first 3 months of my life in Australia, in that area. So yeah.
So what we do? You just working. I mean, did you go out to that, or you just literally just worked and then like what we? what were like your chill time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to keep going through this? Because I can go on for ages about this lot.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Cool. So we turned up. So we're in a house. There was 10 people. So we had a couple living in a private room. They were from Israel. Then I was in a room with a trio of Germans. It was brother and sister and their friend. And then there was another room which had it was initially 4 people. Eventually it became 6 people because it was a much bigger room. So in there was the hand of this Canadian guy. There were a couple of Germans and an Irish guy. And yeah, we were like round the corner from this pie factory, which produces all the frozen pies for Australia. For any Australians, it's Paddy's Foods.
Nice.
It's like 4 and 20 pies are all made there. Snowy River pies, the cold stuff, woolly stuff. It's all from there. And yeah, we were working 8 hours a day, just putting pies in the box. We were packing. That was it. So for me, like, I'm just doing that all day long, 8 hours a day. And we figured out, because one of the big things when it comes to the 88 days is how you calculate your days. Because actually, if you work 5 days in a week or 35 hours, it counts as a full 7-day week.
Yeah.
So the first couple of weeks, we only got 4 shifts, and I've spoken to my manager, who's a great guy. Name was Brian Beams. He was awesome. And yeah, he sorted us out. So we always had, and we had new backpackers came in eventually, and they always had their 5 days on his shifts so we could get our days in. And the people we worked with were lovely. The first couple of weeks was intense because everyone wants to know everything about you. And, like, their knowledge of the UK came from, TV, or, it was like Christmas, like, oh, it's like a Christmas card out there. And we're like, no, it's not. It's dark and rainy and miserable. Much rather be in Australia in the sun. Yeah, so everyone was working different shifts in the hostel. Myself and the Canadian, we worked the afternoon shift, which was like 3:30 to 11:30. And then there were some people who come in at 11:30 and take over from us through till, the morning. Yeah. So 7:30 in the morning. Then my roommates would be doing the 7:30 through till 3:30. And then some of the other guys were doing a different line. So they'd be doing like 8 until 4 or something. So we'd see them briefly as they were leaving and we were coming in. And yeah, it was crazy. And for a lot of them, they just decided they were going to get their heads down and work. And that was it. Yeah. And some would do 6 or 7 days in a week, which doesn't count any extra towards your 88 days. They just wanted to work. And that was it. For me, I was less interested in just working. I wanted to experience everything that was going on. And actually, a couple of weeks in, we did then have the factory shut down for Christmas, which, if you're counting your days, throws that out completely. But everybody left the hostel apart from myself, the Canadian, and one of the Germans. And we just explored. We got involved with the local area. So I'm actually wearing a cricket shirt from Y Young Cricket Club, who I ended up playing for. So I met a guy. Yeah, we had to do physical checks to get into the factory. I met this guy called Ben, who was our physio. And whilst he's doing the check, we're just chatting. I said about playing cricket. And suddenly I've got a map of where to go. They've got me a game the following weekend. And eventually I just ended up playing for them. And my manager allowed me to have, I think I had Tuesday nights off for one of the training sessions. I had Saturdays off every week to play games. And around that I was working. And the money was great as well. So you'll find in Australia, beer is very, very expensive. In rural areas, you're going to pay about £5 for a pint minimum, like in UK money. So it's like $9. But food can be really, really cheap. But the wages are really high. So although I was paying that, I was earning $30 an hour minimum. So that's,
what's that in English? What's that in English?
15, 16, 17 pounds an hour.
All right,
that's good.
And then, working Sundays, I'm on $50 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Then I worked Australia, which was $60 an hour. And Saturdays, you got paid more, but I didn't work Saturdays. So it was, for the people who put their heads down, they could just work and earn loads of money to then spend.
Yeah.
But for some of us, it was, we wanted to go out and explore the different areas around us. We went to these amazing cave systems in Buchan. We went down to a bunch of the beaches. We went on hikes. We, saw wildlife. There's a little island full of koalas down there. A lot of people talk on the East Coast about Magnetic Island, which is incredible. Now, I've got a video about it on my YouTube channel. But Raymond Island, we saw far more koalas. They were just everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't see that many out there, but they were absolutely everywhere. And we wouldn't have found that otherwise. We got to try the local foods, which they do have in Australia. They do have a bit of culture. Check out the local pubs. Meet local people who then took us off to other areas and showed us other things we would not necessarily have known about. And I've got friends I still speak to from that time. In fact, after my 3 months and I'd left, I then came back later for another month. So,
nice.
If you're doing that work, you got to make the most of it.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion. You've got to, when you're living down there, live and get involved and experience things and really appreciate what's going on around you. Because some people will go and they'll spend time with backpackers and that's it. And they never make a real meaningful connection with what's going on and they disappear. And oh yeah, I went to Australia, saw a few beaches, hung out with my friends, and that was it.
Yeah, you've got experience, haven't you?
You know, did you end up at like an Aussie wedding where they're on the edge of like an AFL, and you know you've learned what Aussie rules football is, but you're up in the mountains somewhere, and you know everyone's drinking whatever, and like you know goon's nowhere to be seen because that's the backpacker drink, and the locals don't drink goon. They have proper wine and craft beers, all this crazy stuff. Or you just, you know, driving, the kangaroo just jumps out in front of you on the roads, and they're like, "Yep, happens all the time." Like little things like that. You know, I found a ski resort, and one of my friends took us up into what they call the high country, the mountains, and showed us ski resorts because they exist in Australia. In fact, we went up later in the year before I came home, and it snowed. Like it was 30, 35 degrees down in the town where I was staying. And there's pictures of me. You probably find one. You can stick it as the main thing if you want. It won't work for Australia because people go, you don't see snow. Well, I'm in a t-shirt and shorts. I didn't expect to see snow. It just happened. It was just there. We're like, to turn around and go back. So yeah, like I got the work done. I did the work, but I really kind of fell in love with the place I was living in, and actually ended up doing a tourism video for them a few months later, which was pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I think we'll wrap it up there, and I think what we'll do is we'll go into more detail your time in Australia on the next one. 'Cause I think this one was more just about getting there, you know, getting started, and what you do when you first get there. So I think definitely for the next one we'll go into more depth with what you did when we're in there. Shaun, do you want to say anything?
No. Thank you once again, Jamie, for joining us and giving us your insight into getting to Australia.
It's so interesting. It is so interesting.
So much. There's videos everywhere on YouTube about them as well. I watch loads. Just watch them. Watch this. Watch all these stuff these guys do, but also check out looking for stuff. There's some really great people out there.
Yeah. Awesome.
But just with the tip, like that tip about stopping over, that's brilliant. And if I hadn't known that before, I would have definitely
life changing, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's exactly the same amount of money. It just makes more sense.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thanks very much, Jamie, for coming on. Please like, subscribe, click on the notification button for everyone watching, and leave in the comments what you liked. Let us know if there's anything you want Jamie to discuss on the next version when we go into a little bit more depth about Australia and what he's up to and stuff. Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.